You know, now we have Cyberpunk 2077. So when we get to 2077, we're gonna go look around, going, "It ain't like this, man." You know.
Well, that's probably a good thing after
We'll
playing the
all
game.
be dead. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know.
It's the Trinity MMO Show.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It is time once again for the main story quest, where the Trinity Bros give you their MMO opinion.
I don't know if you guys caught that or not. I was merging the word MMO with opinions. MMOpinions. MMOpinions.
Got it.
I think we need to stop the show. Just quit.
Oh, okay. Well,
It was good.
I thought it was, but I don't know.
Worth the
think I
price
do.
of entry.
All right. Anyways, so time for us, the Trinity Bros, to give you some of our opinions, okay, in the Trinity main story quest. Now, I heard this again. I'll tell you, massively LP, if you're not listening to their podcast, they do give you some good ideas from some of their write-in letters from people. They get around to them now and then. But I don't know if it's one of their actual topics, but I wrote down the ideas like, what if they were to launch an old title as if new? Because I say a lot of people like doing retro games. I mean, not me. I know I'm the 8-bit, been there, done that, not going back. But there are a lot of people who are out there like, oh, if I only could do that back in the day, or I want to play that game, or even the people doing retro games, like they're usually 8-bit, 16-bit, and they have new features, new whatever, right? And I was thinking about the fact that what if they took an old IP that no one even heard about because everyone's moved on, and they launched it as a brand new title. Look at this retro game, and they launch it because people do like going back to the old servers, whether it's a game that's still in maintenance mode or it's a game that has a rogue server. People want to go back, and so I thought, I don't know. What do you think? What do you think if they were? What's your thought about if they were to actually take an old IP that maybe is off the market now, or not, or it's still on the market? Could be old school RuneScape is an example of a old title that sucks, in my opinion, but it's doing very popular. So, Solomon, what do you think? What if you took an old title, and if you had an old title you want to relaunch, what do you think about it? Would that win? You think that might work to relaunch an old title as if it's new?
Can SirJahzeal go first? I need to think about this.
I'll go first. What you guys think of this? Okay, so the idea of an old title. I mean, there are titles I played. Dark Age of Camelot still exist, so it's not going back. But I was thinking about the fact that if you took Dark Age of Camelot, well, say Dark Age of Camelot and you just turned it off, okay? Like, I'm going to turn off the servers and whatnot, or even just not even turn off the servers. I would say, hey, your big announcement, we're launching a brand. No, that's not going to work. It's already out there. I'm just thinking, take an old game that does not exist now. They were to relaunch it. I got a good example. It might be City of Heroes because it's dead. It's a rogue server. I was thinking also, Warhammer 40k was a Mythic Entertainment IP MMO that had its flair and did well, and then crashed and burned. I forget what happened to it. Or even Star Wars Galaxies, had its moment in the sun and then crashed and burned. And usually, mostly because the companies turned them off versus, I think, the gamers who were done with them. So, Zaziel, you have an idea?
I do, but I was just trying to figure out where you were coming from, because I was thinking, like take an Atari 2600 title and turn it into...
Well, you could do that too. That's a good point. I hadn't thought about that. I was thinking more just MMOs.
Well, if we were going by MMOs, I can do the Atari 2600 because I can think of a couple of games that I think probably would be pretty cool MMOs. I miss WildStar. I'm just going to be really open about it. I miss WildStar. I thought it was a good game. I don't know what happened there. It should have been more popular.
Yeah.
And it was a little more punishing than World of Warcraft. It was more difficult. It had a little steeper of a learning curve. So I'll give players that that the barrier of entry, was definitely there, and unless you had a friend or a group of friends that kind of eased you into the process, I understand. But man, it was such a good game. And when when they finally shut the servers off, I felt it, man.
Yeah.
I felt it even though I myself hadn't played it in a couple of years by the time that happened. The idea that I can't go back and reinstall it and play it on Steam or Epic or whatever, it just was like, wow, man, it's a bummer.
Yeah.
The other one that I would say that supposedly, I mean, there is a rogue server out there for it, or private server, whatever title you want to give it. And I hear rumors every once in a while. It seems like every 6 months or so, I hear a rumor that there is something being worked on. Was Hell's Gate, London. It wasn't. It felt very incomplete, but what they had, if ever a game could say it had promise, man, that game had promise. The lore of it and the atmosphere, the style of the game, it just was so different from the other games that were out there, and it was just mind you, there was a single player version of it, and then slightly MMO. But to see an MMO, a completed MMO version of that, would be wonderful. And it'd be something new and fresh that I think probably would work better now than it did when it originally was released. And I think maybe WildStar would as well.
That's what I was wondering. If maybe some games were just ahead of the time, not ready yet. I was just thinking when you mentioned about
Probably.
WildStar, went up, NCSoft, closed down Carbine Studios, and that ended WildStar.
Right.
So I thought, wait a minute, NCSoft, the same people who shut down Paragon Studios, who shut down City of Heroes. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Okay, now City of Heroes we know never lost, probably didn't lose money. They decided they were tired of keeping it going, and basically they shut down Paragon Studios and went somewhere else. So it's like, wait a minute. So So WildStar, I think, was losing money. Went to free to play. They ended up shutting off their PvP servers. I saw in the article because lack of interest. So WildStar, that's why I'm wondering maybe like that time, the date wasn't there, or people who want to go back. It's like the retro thing, like, oh yeah, look at this, man. So they're heroes. You look at the graphics today, and you go to the Rogue server, you're like, wow, okay, that reminds you of City of Heroes, and it's definitely 2012. It's kind of like playing WoW Classic, and you're like, wow, it's definitely 2004.
Right.
It's not updated. What about you,
Well,
Solomon? Sorry.
Just real quick, I would have mentioned City of Heroes, but as we've been discussing, because we're looking forward to them, it's coming back in a way. We've got 4 or 5 different games coming to us that are in that style that are going to scratch that itch. And so I think of the ones that I mentioned, definitely WildStar, man. And if it, by some grace of God, it did come back, please, people, give it a chance this time. But yeah, Solomon, go ahead.
Oh yeah,
Solomon?
actually, there is a Discord server that you could join, where there's a group of people that are trying to make a WildStar Rogue server right now. It's not super active. I only check in like every once in a while, just to see where they are. But they're working on it. But in terms of progress, I don't know really where they're at. It doesn't seem like they've made much. But just something that I would just wanted to share with you guys if you are in the similar boat as SirJahzeal. I actually, something SirJahzeal said earlier. I forgot what he said. Reminded me of a game that actually initially came out way back in the late 80s, I think, or at least at the very least early 90s, and came out as an online game, and that is Elite Dangerous. That was like this
The
two
first
color Yeah, the very first one. It's like super old retro game, almost vintage, I want to say. And then they remade the game into an MMO, not necessarily an RPG, as I would always contend. But yeah, that was something that I think very fits appropriately for the topic of this conversation. Because I always thought Elite Dangerous was always that game that we know now, which is that online MMO ship building and creation and trading and all that stuff. But no, it's actually a 20 some odd year old game.
That's a good
Do you have-
point.
Do you have
Maybe
the
that is
info
the way to do
review?
it. You know, I mean, that's a good point. Homeworld, I think, is an old game that people have re-brought back a title to. So that's a good point.
really?
Maybe we are seeing this. Maybe we are seeing people bringing. Well, I know people are bringing back old titles and refreshing them as
Right.
new stuff and whatnot. And I get that. That's my
You guys
whole question.
remember Wing Commander?
Well, I kind of barely. I didn't really play much of it. Is that the one with Mark Hamill
Yeah.
in it too?
Yes,
Star
it had Mark
Citizen?
Hamill. Well, kind of. That's the thing. Is then you go, well, there's already a game like that now. So
Yeah.
it kind of shoots
Well-
it out of the water, I
Well, that's
guess.
why this one was less of a remake or bring back or reboot. It's more of like, a refresh is more literally taking the old code, taking the old game, and then putting it out there as being brand new. Sorry, I'm sorry if I didn't clarify that. Well, the idea is that people are into retro. People are into retro. They really, really like retro, okay? Not me. I know. I say that's why people are very much into retro in regards to the old stuff, the old school stuff. Like, if only I could have played that when I was younger. Or, that's why, a lot of these kind of games are still existing. Like, you still play EverQuest, EverQuest 2. You can still play Dark Age of Camelot and WoW. Even in some of the games that are more mothbally these days, even like Rift, But that's why I mentioned Warhammer 40K that Mythic Entertainment did. And that was an MMORPG that was popular at one point. And then, of course, even Star Wars Galaxies, that was popular. And these are both two games that have rogue servers out there. And I'm just thinking, what if you were to relaunch it, like as pretend like it's a brand new title? People are like, if you wanted to play the game that, you said, old school is back, come play the game. Come play the game using the asset. You want to make it sound like it's a brand new IP, or not a brand new IP, brand new game, without saying, we're just going to bring the old game back, and make some money.
I would say I'd throw Anarchy Online in that
Anarchy
mix.
Online.
Mm-hmm. There's still a pretty big fan base for that.
And apparently even Meridia 57, you said, people are still playing that on some rogue servers. So maybe we don't need to do that. But that's a different topic about playing rogue servers. But I was just like, what if they repackage it? Like I said, everybody's into retro. Not everybody. They're into retro, whether it's bell bottoms and 8-bit graphics, whether it's bringing the old music back or movies. It's like, did you know that Back to the Future was 2015? You're like, well, crap, man. What happened to that? Now we have Cyberpunk 2077. So when we get to 2077, we're gonna go look around, going, it ain't like this, man.
Well, that's probably a good thing. After playing the game,
be dead. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know.
All right, that's it for our main story quest. Now we're going on to something else. Check out the further adventures of Kennethan by liking and subscribing and watching me live on twitch.tv/Kennethan.